No, Suleiman said one day, after Aisha has criticized him once again. I can't take this anymore, I'm leaving. Just as I said I would. Aisha was heartbroken. Once upon a time, in a small village close to the mountains, there lived a woman named Aisha. Aisha was a kind and gentle soul, but she was also a bit of a control freak. She liked to have everything just so, and she couldn't stand it when things were out of place. This extended to her husband, Suleiman, who was often the target of Aisha's constant nagging. No matter what he did, it was never good for her. "You're doing it wrong," she would always say. But that's not how you were supposed to do it. It seemed like nothing he did could please her. One day, Suleiman had enough. "Aisha," he said, "I can't take this anymore. I can't live like this, being consistently criticized and corrected. I'm going to leave you if this doesn't change." Aisha was shocked by his words. She had never imagined that he would leave her. "Please," she said, "don't leave me. I promise I'll try to be my better. I'll be less critical, and I'll let you do your thing to your ways." Suleiman thought about it for a moment. He loved his wife, but he was tired of being under her constant scrutiny. Suleiman decided to give Aisha a chance. "I'll stay," he said, "but only if you agree to a condition. If you criticize or correct me again, I'll leave. No second chances." Aisha nodded. "I agreed." She said, "I promise not to criticize you or correct you again. I'll try to be a better wife." And so the two went on with their lives. At first, Aisha kept her promise, and Suleiman was happy. But then, little by little, the old habits kept back in. She would make little comments here and there, saying, before she knew it, Aisha was back to her old ways. "No," Suleiman said one day, after Aisha has criticized him once again. "I can't take this anymore, I'm leaving." Just as I said I would. Aisha was heartbroken. She realized that she had made a mistake, and she begged Suleiman to stay. "Please, my husband. I'm sorry, I'll do better. I'll try harder. I love you and I don't want to lose you." But Suleiman was firm. It was too late, he said. "I can't stay in a marriage where I feel so bittered, belittled and controlled. I need to be able to be myself, to be free to make my own choices. I'm sorry, Aisha, but I have to go." Aisha watched as Suleiman packed his things and left the house. She felt a deep sense of loss and regret. In her desire to control everything, she had lost the one person she loved most in the weeks and months that followed. Aisha worked on herself. She sought counseling and worked on her own issues, and slowly she began to change. She learned to let go of her control and to accept herself and others as they were. As she changed, something wonderful happened. Suleiman began to notice the difference in her. He saw how much she had grown, and he began to miss her. One day, he called her and asked if they could meet for coffee. Aisha was nervous, but she agreed. They met at a cafe, and they talked for hours. Aisha told him about all her changes she had made, and Suleiman told her how much he missed her. They both realized that they still love each other, and they decided to give their marriage another chance. Years later, Aisha and Suleiman were sitting on their couch, watching the sunset. Their children were grown and had families of their own, and they were content. Aisha looked over at her husband and smiled. "Do you remember when you left?" She asked. "Of course I do," Suleiman said. "It was one of the hardest things I ever did, but I'm so glad we got a second chance." Aisha nodded. "I am too," she said. "I wouldn't have changed a thing," and they sat together, content in the knowledge that sometimes the best thing in life happen when we let go of our need to control and instead open up ourselves to love. For Aisha and Suleiman, that lesson had been a hard one, but it had been worth in the end. They had learned that sometimes it is best to just let go and let love lead the way, and that in the end is what made all the difference. So today, I'll be talking to you about patience and submission, control as well. On one hand, it can be helpful in certain situations, like when we need to set boundaries or maintain orders, but on the other hand, it can be damaging and even destructive when we take it too far. In the book of Proverbs 16:32, He who is slow to anger is better than the Almighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures a city. This verse teaching us that self-control is more valuable than the ability to control others. In addition, Galatians 5:22-23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control." This verse highlights the importance of the fruit of Spirit, including self-control in our lives. We can see from these verses that God values self-control, but not in the sense of controlling others or our circumstances. Instead, He values us learning to control our own heart and mind. When we do this, we can truly experience peace and joy, and we can live in a way that honors God. Thank you so much for reading my story. I have come to the end of this story. I'm sure most of you enjoyed the story. I'd love you guys to keep watching my stories and keep supporting me so I can keep giving you amazing stories. Folktale stories that you would love. Don't forget, guys, this is just one of my stories. You can click my channel. You can check out my channel for more of my stories. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, drop a comment under this video, and kindly subscribe for more amazing Folktales African stories. See you guys on my next story. Bye, guys.
Once upon a time, in the village of Abecheku in Enugu State, Nigeria, there lived a princess named Ada. She was a kind and generous princess, but she was also very fat. Because of her weight and size, she was often teased by the other children in the kingdom. One day, the king announced that he would put a competition to choose a good bride for his son. The Princess Ada, wanted to enter the competition, but she knew she was not considered beautiful by the people of the kingdom. Despite the obstacles, Princess Ada decided to participate in the competition. She spent weeks practicing the skills required for the competition, like cooking, weaving, and dancing. When the day of the competition arrived, Princess Ada was nervous but determined to do her best. The first part of the competition was the cooking challenge. Princess Ada worked hard to prepare the most delicious dish she could. To her surprise, her dish won first place, but the other princesses were jealous of her success and started to scheme against her. For the next part of the competition, the princesses had to compete in a weaving challenge. Princess Ada was not as skilled at weaving as the other princesses, and she knew she would have to work hard to do well. But as she was working, one of the other princesses came over and accidentally knocked over her loom. Princess Ada had worked but ruined, and she was devastated. The other princesses started to laugh at her, but the prince saw what had happened. He was furious and asked the other princesses to leave the room. When the other princesses were gone, the prince turned to Princess Ada. "I know you have been treated unfairly," he said, "but I wanted you to know that I admire your courage and determination. You are a true princess, and I would be honored to have you as my bride." Princess Ada was shocked by the prince's words. She had never thought that he would see her for who she truly was. She was blushed and accepted his proposal. From that day onward, Princess Ada was treated with the respect she deserved. She and Prince Chukwudi lived happily ever after. But there was one more twist to the story. As Princess Ada and Prince Chukwudi were preparing for their wedding, a terrible storm swept through the kingdom. The royal palace was damaged and the wedding was postponed. Princess Ada was heartbroken, but she knew that the storm was just a small obstacle compared to what she had already overcome. As the kingdom began to rebuild, Princess Ada and Prince Chukwudi worked side by side, helping their people in the end. In the end, their love for each other and for their kingdom grew even stronger. Few months later, Princess Ada was pregnant with the prince's child. But then a rumor began to spread through the kingdom. The child was not the prince. But the result of a secret affair, the people began to whisper behind Princess Ada's back. The child might not belong to the prince. It might belong to another man. Who knows? This princess is very evil. They said at Princess Ada's back again. And she felt her heart break once again. But the prince refused to listen to the rumors he had. He stood by Princess Ada's side, and together they waited for the birth of their child. When the baby was born, the prince took one look at his newborn daughter and knew the truth. The baby had his eyes, his smile, and his laugh. And so the rumors were put to rest, and the people of the kingdom began to see Princess Ada for who Chuchile was. A kind, generous, and courageous woman. She and the prince raised their daughters together, teaching her the value of honesty, compassion, and perseverance. And they all lived happily ever after. But this is not the end of the story of Princess Ada and her daughter. Princess Ada's daughter grew up just to be as brave and kind as her mother. And her daughter's daughter and her daughter's daughters after that, a chain of strong, courageous women, all descended from Princess Ada, who never gave up on her. The chain of women continued, each one passing down the lesson of courage and kindness to her daughters. Generation passed and the world changed around them. There were wars and plagues and famines. Through it all, the line of women descended from Princess Ada continued, leading by example and inspiring others with their strength and determination. And though the names and faces changed over the years, the spirit of Princess Ada lived on in each of them. To this day, the legacy of Princess Ada continues as a reminder that true beauty is found in the heart, not in appearance.